I wouldn't have liked to do this reaction this way, even though it vindicates me a lot of majority of the things I said in the previous episode. But Erasmus, how does it feel to be a Chelsea fan for the past 24 hours?
Man, I can't tell you how great it
Yeah,
feels. I can't describe it. You know that feeling where you are at that point and you're like, this feels familiar, but I haven't felt this in a very
yeah.
long time. And then you're like, this is where we belong. I understand why people were wailing, crying throughout the torrential period. But I mean, like, I'm sure we are going to get into it, but if you are a Chelsea fan, it almost feels like a dream. Like I was pinching myself at a point. And more so, like when I woke up, it felt like I had drank the night before. Like I was filled with so much excitement, I could hardly
Yeah,
sleep. And today, on the algorithms, like I keep scrolling,
and it's all Chelsea.
hard. Even
It's hard to find
it's
something.
all Chelsea,
It's
just
hard to
Chelsea,
find something
Chelsea.
else.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So, I mean, it's incredible. Like as a Chelsea fan, the feeling is incredible, and I think as a football fan, if you know what Chelsea has been through, like you'd relate. But of course, not everyone is as human and as loving as you. So I'm sure we'll get
No,
to
but
that.
I mean, I wanted to point out that you guys, Chelsea fans, even before we come to yesterday's game, you guys paint a very long, horrible period for yourselves. But it really wasn't that long ago since you guys won the Champions League, right? So I'm still wondering, like, how bad has it been that you guys still claim that like it's been that hard and it's been horrible for you guys? I get the whole forced sale after Abramovich situation. I get the new takeover, and it's like the way football works. When you are within a turbulent period, it feels like that's all that's happening, right? But if you zoom out a little bit and you put a lens on it, it's not like Chelsea far back has been like it's been so long ago since Chelsea was this good.
No, yeah, I completely understand what you mean. And if you think about it in context, like there's only one club which can win it every year.
Yeah,
And I mean, Chelsea is a great club, but there's so many other great clubs also that can win it. I think the point here is being in the
yeah,
conversation, having the hope and the light snatched out of you. That's where the pain is.
okay,
Because you can miss it. Like you can get knocked out in a quarterfinal, in a semi-final, or even in a final. It's knowing that you are not there, you are not going to be there. Like you cannot even cross the door to even enter into the conversation, and you've been shut out. It's like there's a party going on with all of the fun going on. There is a jam,
you are
like
watching from the
you are
Conference
hearing that
League.
there's Burna Boy on stage, and you are just watching from afar, and you are like, "What's? I want to go in there."
Yeah,
Like you know how good you can be in there. You know how much you want to enjoy yourself,
yeah,
but it's like no, no, and just the belief. And when you keep on failing like that, like your spirits goes down. I know a lot of Chelsea fans who checked out. Some went to follow basketball, followed other
why are you
sports.
shading people I know?
Some stopped watching football. I don't care if you know them or if I don't know, but like that's what happened.
someone
I'm sure there will be so many other people.
someone released an official statement yesterday on Facebook that they officially returning to Chelsea as a fan. That they had.
Yes, you are finding a lot of returnees.
Yeah,
The truth is that I'm not going to talk much because yesterday I said something. I said that I, no, before, like I said this a while
yeah,
ago, I'm sure you'd know. Why I said I've stopped defending Enzo Maresca's tactics.
yeah,
And it so happened that yesterday, immediately the lineup was produced, everyone said, "Why is James in
yeah,
midfield?" And I was like, "Look, you guys don't understand football, and you don't pretend to do it. Like at least try and pretend." Because I'm not saying understand whatever the
yeah,
coach is doing. Like, hello, I don't have any
yeah,
tactics or anything of that sort. I try and understand what the coach is
yeah,
doing. And then I ask myself, does it make sense as against what he's facing?
yeah,
And 90% of the time, it makes sense. It will not always work,
Yeah,
but 90% of the time, it makes sense. It makes sense why Rhys James is playing in the
yeah.
midfield. But no one asks the question, and then they use it to undermine, disrespect the coach, and says he plays them out of positions, yada yada yada, and then they just leave. But of course, we are not here to talk about those Chelsea fans. I think for now, there's a sense of unity within the
Yeah.
base, so we want to talk about people
See the
who are on the
people.
other side, the people who spent holy hours using it for
Ah.
hate watch. The Lord said he rested on the seventh day, and on the Sabbath you keep it holy. You go to church, you come back, you take off your white, you are still in your white singlet and trouser, and then you put on your TV and you hate watch. What a waste of time! What a waste of
Erasmus,
holy
don't you
hours!
hate watch sometimes? Don't you hate watch sometimes?
No, I'm a
Last
football
season,
fan.
as at the time the
No, that's the
season
thing.
was
I'm a
ending,
football fan.
you were hate watching Aston Villa. You were supporting United to lash them. You are here.
Not not yes. No, I understand. Listen, I
Uh huh.
understand if you are a rival fan
Yes.
and it benefits you, and then you are watching so that we fail,
Yeah, but it
right?
benefits
You are
them.
watching to see what happens so that you are
They were
getting
protecting the
fair.
road from noise
Fair.
pollution.
How was it benefiting United? Like, in fact, we were the defenders of the English Premier League. See how the English Premier League was dragged through the sun by this marauding PSG team. And we always have to come in here and do the job for you guys. That's what I don't understand. We always have to come in here and then do the job for them. It is pathetic. It is frustrating.
You see,
But that
you
is what that
see,
is the job we love
you
to
see,
do.
you see the elevation of the arrogance with which you are talking. The fun of a of a club World Cup champion. You see the level of impunity with which you are speaking. Hey, today Chelsea
I
fans
just
say they are
I
the
just
ones
have
who defend the integrity and the image of the English Premier League. You see your life.
but it's true. It's true. Like, you remember,
Oh, but I mean,
like, in
for
the
for
last
for
couple of
for
years
for
before
it's not even the last couple
City
of
won
years.
it.
This entire season, um, PSG has dragged every single Premier League team they've met. Like they've lashed every single
Photo.
Premier League team they've met. So fair enough. Fair enough. Um, I first of all, I wanted you to admit that I'm not the media because when I was speaking 2 days ago, you said I was doing agenda. 2 days ago, I told you that this Chelsea team is better than Bayern Munich and Real Madrid. 2 days ago, I told you this Chelsea team is a different challenge to anything this PSG team has faced throughout the tournament. 2 days ago, I told you this Chelsea team is not the Chelsea team that won the Conference League. They're a team that has beaten the teams that were touted to be in the final, and they've beaten the people who beat them. I felt this Chelsea team was much more dangerous than people gave them credit for. You wanted me to stick with the crowd and the media and say, Chelsea are the terrible guys. First of all, obviously, the media did the job for you guys, and you guys benefited from the underdog theory, and you guys rose and proved everyone wrong. Fine. You shocked everyone. You didn't shock me.
Yes.
I just want you to admit that I'm not the media.
It's,
I have my independent opinions. I assess
I feel
situations.
like you held the entire episode in order to have this
No, 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 no,
admission.
no.
But
I mean, I'm
I'll
I'm
give you
going to
your
I'm going to
flowers.
discuss how they eventually beat them in the final, but it's like I
I'll give you your flowers.
I
But
I always hold the
also,
opinion that sometimes I just distance myself. So, for instance, before we came to discuss the episodes 2 days, the match 2 days ago, I've not listened to what was happening in the media, so I didn't even know that a lot of people were touting Chelsea as underdogs and they were going to be beaten up until you said it. And I was telling you, I don't view Chelsea that way. But fair enough. I mean, football analysis there is not for everyone, so it's okay. It's
no.
okay. I
So
mean, the analysis is not
it's
for
also
everyone.
important to remember that sometimes the enemy will cause you to doubt yourself. Okay. But sometimes the enemy will cause you to doubt
Yeah.
yourself. But sometimes it is also important to allow them to think that you doubt yourself, to allow them to think that they have the upper hand. Because where the corner they were putting Chelsea in was the exact place that we needed to be in order to win this game. If and I'll be very honest here, like the Conference League finals and then this World Cup finals were two different
Yeah, they
games.
were.
you realize that in both of them the narratives were very
Yeah.
different. The first of them, it was like there's this Chelsea team that is like a superpower team, but Betis can hurt
Yeah.
them. We don't know the surprise they
Betis
bring,
was the
and
more
they
the
can be
underdog
complacent.
surprise element team in that
Yeah,
conversation.
yes, yes. And in the end, they still ended up talking up Betis, and we smashed them. But you saw how the match went, where they went ahead first. We were rattled before we had to come up in the second half and
Yeah.
win the game. This Chelsea team and Chelsea teams of old love to be stuck in the corner. They love it when the odds are stuck against them. We love it. And there's something that I read from a book, either by like Sanshu or Robert
Yeah.
Greene, where he says that do not put your enemy on death ground. That's one of the rules of war. Do not put your enemy on death grounds, because when you
They have
do,
nothing
then
to
they are forced
yeah,
to
they have
fight
nothing
back.
to lose.
They have they,
So
they have nothing to lose. So the entire media scripted a narrative and they caught on with people. So even for some Chelsea fans, when we looked at it, you knew that okay, like we are not as bad as this, especially those of us who have been following for long. But we were also not incredibly over the top thinking that we'll beat PSG 3-0. I told you that we'll have something like the Liverpool game
yeah,
where we'll take the game to them and we'll outplay
yeah.
them. But I still don't think
I mean, for the
that
for
we
the
have the
very first
zip
time, I
to
heard
maybe.
myself defend Chelsea better than you did.
No, it was no, of course, like it was the reasoning also behind what I was saying, right? Because for me, the issue that we always had in these big games was that we were not clinical.
Yeah,
We were not clinical. So we get the chances, we waste them, then we concede one, then like our heads are gone. So I sort of expected the same thing, but obviously with the new signings and also with the experience and the mentality shifts that happened from the back end of last
yeah,
season where they had to go through the dogs, like Champions League,
yeah,
up until the time we scored in the 86th minute against Fulham, we were not going to qualify
yeah.
for the Champions League. And from there, it's like something turned in their minds, and the boys have never looked back. So for me, that was the main difference.
Interesting. How did you see?
And the finishing, yeah, some of the new players and their finishing,
Yeah, I
yeah,
mean the first half was just a shock for most people. But I stayed up. I stayed up. It was around 4 a.m. my time. I still stayed up to watch the game because I was so eager to see how Chelsea sets up and how they play in the very first 10 minutes. Because I think when we had a discussion, I said if anybody sees the first 10 minutes, you'll be able to see whether or not Chelsea will survive in the game or they won't. And in the very first 10 minutes, you could see Chelsea not wanting to give up the ball and sitting deep and soaking the pressure. And for the very first time, you see a team press
mm,
PSG as high as PSG would press any team, right? Like before PSG would play out from the back, you have Pedro Neto, Joao Pedro, you have what do you call it, colepalmer, all these guys lining up like watchdogs, watching like Dembele has been doing all throughout this season. And it was very interesting to see the energy and the aggression with which they were playing. And for me, that was the main thing. It's like even right from the first minute, Chelsea had gone into play in a Ghanaian terms, buga buga. They were going to be very physical and they didn't want to play
yeah,
safe and hope that, because they knew that with how technical this PSG team is, if you try to avoid the cards, if you try to play safe, if you try to pull out from a tackle instead of go all in, they are going to play around with you. And for me, those were the signs I was looking for. Immediately I saw that, like, you see them even in PSG's half when they try progressing the ball. Caicedo rushes in and makes in a very hard tackle. Safe, not safe, decisive, precise, but very hard. More than you'd see a lot of other teams do. Like, at least if it's in their half, you'd wait, maybe you track back and see, and maybe when they're approaching your own box, that's when you do something as that. But the fact that they were doing those very aggressively defensive things, even as close as PSG's box, was the indication that these guys were not here to play. And so even though they were missing the initial chances, you could still trust from the very onset that Chelsea was going to give PSG a challenge that they haven't seen. in this competition so far. And being as clinical as Colepalmer was, I think it was probably the best time for him to be this clinical. Being as clinical as he was in goal, in front of goal, in those minutes was what sealed it for them. And you'd notice that they really targeted the channels. So you have PSG and their free roaming fullbacks, push them up. Nuno Mendes. Chelsea decided we are not even going to play from the back. Sanchez, get the ball, boom, down the left, and then run, run as much as you can and catch their defense off guard. And it worked. It worked. It's like you use the tool, which is what I was saying, that if they push their fullbacks up, they are always waiting for the other team to say, okay, then you know what? I'm withdrawing my attackers to come and sit in deep because then I don't want to be the one caught off guard. It's always the courage to take that risk and say, take your risk, I'll take mine. Let's see who gets punished first. And clearly, PSG got punished first and they couldn't return from it. So it was a really interesting game to see a tactical display that gets PSG to this extent. Like, for them to be persuasively beaten by the end of first half is one that I don't think anybody expected from Chelsea. But it was surprising how well it worked. It wasn't shocking that such a strategy would work against PSG. It was just shocking, like, how much and how frequent and how repeatedly it worked in the exact same game without Luis Enrique adjusting anything to defend it.
So, like, I mean, for me, Maresca is someone that I really trust in the big games because, like, he understands football. I don't think, like, maybe we may have time to do that discussion around the expectations for this Chelsea team. But if you say we should play like 30 odd league games to finish the season, I don't know if you win all
Yeah,
of it and become champion. But if you say one off game, one on one
yeah,
with a team, I almost will bet because and you realize that he struggles when there are limited circumstances. Like he played most of the season without his number nine,
yeah,
his preferred number nine, with his preferred centre back, Kopama being all out of form, and sometimes his ability to deal with those challenges still needs a lot of work in terms of adapting to it. But in terms of let's sit down, let's do the tactics. You go and listen to. I'll give. He did one interview with I think Rio Ferdinand
yeah,
or so on one of the channels TNT. Go and listen to him as he talks about the Liverpool game. And right after he talks about the Liverpool game, people thought he had given away his tactics. He switched it. He switched the tactics. He no longer used it anymore. He speaks to the game to this minute level of detail in terms of how players stand to receive the ball.
yeah,
Don't play with the guy. And and that's why I was saying that anytime people came out to like object to his tactics and call him a bad coach, I stopped explaining because I realized that people are not taking the time to try and understand. They just say he's a championship manager, he's not won titles and all of that. For example, I want to show you an example. Um, I want to show you an example, then we can move on. In yesterday's game, the tactics he used is conventional like tactics. It's nothing out of the blue. It's conventional tactics as to how you beat a team that is high pressing. You attack the spaces behind them. But how you do that is always the problem because obviously, like they are good players and they also know that that is their weakness. So when you remember in the line, I told you for the predicted lineups, I would love to see Santos in midfield so that he shores up the midfield. And it's because I thought he would not trust Gusto in big games. But what he ended up doing was play Gusto and then play Rhys James, where Rhys James slotted into the midfield and was dropping back anytime Gusto vacated a place. And the key thing here was that he was not keeping Palmer on the wings, where like the space between him and the goal was long. Palmer was drifting into the middle, and that space vacated over there was taken up by Gusto, who obviously had the legs to run back and forth. So what you then had was uh, uh, Mendes started off tracking a winger, which is Palmer, and then Palmer drifts into the middle. But the communication, I realized throughout the match, the communication between Mendes and Fabian Ruiz was very poor because Fabian Ruiz obviously was being more aggressive and was trying to catch the false fullback, which was Rhys James, and sit on him. So in the end, Mendes was always left in a 2v1, and he had to choose who to mark between the marauding Gusto or the Palmer who was drifting over. And every time it was Palmer, because obviously Palmer is the more dangerous player. And I think that PSG also suffered from a bit of arrogance within the game, because in the Premier League, how have they managed to stop Palmer after he scored 14 goals? You put two people on him, put someone on him, follow him everywhere. Palmer needs space to thrive. See the even the first chance he missed, and see all of the two goals. The space in front of him was, he passed the ball into the net. You don't do that with Palmer. So I think that, like, the the arrogance, like, and the narrative, as much as I hate to say it, it got into PSG's head. They really didn't expect they thought, yes, it will be a good game and everything, but they just thought they'll play their game and they'll be good. And that's how come Enrique had no answers. And if you listen to the narrative from the players and the coaches before the game, it's not that they didn't show us respect. I don't want to say that. But there was the expectation that PSG just needs to go out there and be PSG and they'll win. Yes, and that's a mistake that you should never make when you're playing any Chelsea team, much less this one, because they will have problems for you to solve. Like, I like what Anslot did at Anfield, because he solved them very, very, very quickly. Every time we've played in a big match, the big manager has had to change things and solve them. I always fear when we face smaller teams, because they know what to do against us and they are willing to do it. You see, and this PSG team, people forget that this PSG team against Aston Villa, after Aston Villa scored, they were rattled. Um, in the beginning of the season, they struggled against Arsenal when Arsenal was pinging balls and putting it on top of them. They are very physical, but they like to play the ball on the ground. They don't like to play the ball in the air, even though they are still very, very physical and they are still very, very good technically. And they use their speed and verticality, like the quick interchange passes in the midfield. Then that's how come, if you are static, they can zip between you and then move towards the goal. Yesterday, notice that Levi Colwell and Trevor Chaloba, it was as if they were in centre backs. Every time there was one vacated centre back, because when Dembele drops, someone follows him all the way to the other place. But it requires what? The communication for the other players to be aware and say, there's a space which has vacated, yes. And usually when Dembele runs, Fabian Ruiz makes the run into the space. And this time, Rhys James was on him, dropping back into the back line so that he looks again like the right centre back. So, like, it was a complete performance. It wasn't lack. And this is the point I wanted to bring up, because usually the Chelsea of old, we dig in, sticking deep, underdogs, whatever, breakout. But this time, it wasn't this. And I'm going to tell you this, right? The doubts will not stop. The doubts will not stop. It will still continue. People, yeah, there will be some initial hype, but I hear people saying, yeah, friendly match, Club World Cup, it's not what PSG was tired. And I don't mind, because they'll keep on making the mistake of undermining Chelsea. When I spoke about the Chelsea project, you remember they said we and Man U are at the same level. And I said, I understand that we are facing the same problems, but we we are on a different level. Yes, yes, and they are descending. I use that analogy, right? But you see, they'll now you can see that the rival fans, like Omuyema Shomo, like they are beginning to think, okay, hold on, something is happening over here. And now it's like jealousy, and it's like, oh, you won all this money, and like now you can buy players, and now you spent £1 billion. So you hear those things trying to write us off. But it will get to a point they'll start saying, okay, when do we take this guy seriously? When do we say that um these guys are here to do their job? So it has been a lovely discussion about the Club World Cup final between Chelsea and then Paris Saint-Germain, where it ended 3-0. So Andy and I were talking about the highlights of this game. What were some of the tactical inflections which we saw within the game, and some of the lessons to take moving forward? More so, we spoke about a lot of the conversation that happened, and the narratives that happened around the match, before kickoff. And I think that there is more to share and then talk about over here. But thank you all so much for tuning into the Shafts podcast, specifically the beer parlor. And then we hope to see you in the next episode.